Hello, and welcome back to the Bellevue College XR Lab podcast. I'm your host, John Thaler, and we're going to go around and introduce ourselves before jumping into our topic here. So, starting with myself, I'm John Thaler. I am a recurring host at the Bellevue College XR Lab podcast. I lead the technology side, I help set up the Q studio, and I'm very excited to be here talking with our guest speaker today. Up next, I'd like to introduce
Bruce Wolcott. I am the XR Lab faculty lead and co-manager. The XR Lab has been running over the past 6 years, and both John and Maria, who you'll be meeting in just a couple of minutes, are employees. They have also been students. Maria has been a visiting scholar and worked with us in the past, and we hope that she'll be coming back to return to the XR Lab in some capacity in the future.
And last but not least, our guest speaker for today. Please introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Maria. I'm a developer from Bogota, Colombia, and I had a great experience working for the XR Lab last year, so I'm really happy for this invitation.
So Maria, I just have a few questions. First of all, I'd like to thank you for having been so successfully part of the XR Lab for, I believe it was a year, correct? It was
Yes.
about a year. And could you explain how your interaction and involvement with the XR Lab came to be, and then a little bit about what your experience was here after you arrived working at the XR Lab?
Yeah, of course. So I was introduced to the XR Lab by Paolo Tosolini. He has a company in Seattle that develops immersive experience. And when I talk with the members of the XR Lab, they told me that there was the opportunity to go and work in the XR Lab as a visiting scholar. And I think from the moment one, I was really interested in it. And yeah, it was a great experience working there.
I was wondering if you could tell us a bit about the projects that you worked on, the areas of the. First of all, you came in with a focus in certain areas, and then you picked certain projects that aligned with your interests. And I'm wondering if you could talk about the kinds of work that you did and the territory that you covered when you were working at the XR Lab.
Yes, so that was one of my favorite things, that I always had a lot of freedom to choose the projects I wanted to work with and what kind of technologies we wanted to research. And I remember one of the first projects was already going on when I arrived in January of 2022. And it was this cross-media project about a World War II pilot. His name is Dick Nelms, and he's still alive. And the XR Lab was doing a film short, and then also a VR exhibit. So one of the first things that I did was to work and build also an AR experience to have this whole universe where you connect the same story but tell in different type of media.
Yeah, I think that's so cool. And we'll get a chance to look at that here as a part of our podcast today in a little bit. I also had a kind of a follow-up question for you. Right now, you are on the other side of the world as we're doing this podcast. And so I wanted to know, how do you balance your life in traveling around the world with your passion for these projects that you're constantly working on?
Yeah, so I think that was a great opportunity because that was not on my mind actually. I went to Seattle to work for 6 months, and then my plan was to go back to Colombia. But before going back to Colombia, I had a vacation plan around Europe. And then because my visa expired and the XR Lab still wanted to work with me, they offered me the option to continue doing this online. And because I already had the trip plan, I was thinking, okay, maybe I can give it a try to work while I'm traveling. and it was great. Like I didn't want it to stop, so I after Europe I went to Asia, and then I came back to South America. So I basically like did the full loop around the world. And I think it worked well because a lot of the work that I'm doing is only me. So I need like a few meetings every week, but it's more like a one-to-one feedback or things like that. So I think that's has been one of the most important things to make this work. Also, it's only part-time, so I'm also able to enjoy and get to know the place I'm visiting. I think having a full-time job might be too much because you're spending the whole day working. So that was great too. And yeah, just like the flexibility that the team gives me, like the people I have been working with, they are always really understanding. And we, even if we are 16 hours away, because that was one of the time difference when I was in Indonesia, and it was crazy, but we always find a way to make it work. I start working earlier, or like I send things late at night, and that was really helpful as well.
My question was, when you were doing that, was how difficult was it to get good internet connections to support your communications while you were in a traveling mode like that?
Yeah, for sure. I think that was one of the biggest challenge, especially in some countries like the Philippines, where if you go to the main cities, yes, the internet is great, but if you're traveling more deep in the forest, is harder. So of course, I always had to do a little bit of research and check. In booking you have different scores for everything, and one of them is the Wi-Fi. That was the only the first one that I was checking all the time. But still, sometimes it yeah, it was like really hard. I remember one of the funniest experience was one morning I went to see a sunrise in a volcano, and then I was supposed to have internet, like the internet connection was well where I was staying. But we started the meeting, and the internet was not working, of course, because I was only using my cell phone. So I remember going down in the scooter with my cell phone, trying to find a spot where the service was good, and then I was able to take the meeting. But I was like half driving, half listening, and yeah, that was funny. But in general, it was good, I think.
Well, I'm wondering if we could just take a quick overview of the kinds of projects you worked on.
Yeah.
Maybe we can.
Why don't we take a look at the XR Lab blog, which you have been heavily involved with? So
Yeah.
here, well, before we actually jump into the projects that you've worked on, Bruce, why don't you explain what this is for anyone that might stumble across this and actually might want to take a look at more of these than we're actually going to show on the camera here today?
Sure, that's a great question. So we're looking at the blog site on the XR Lab, which is located in Bellevue College. So the address is bellevuecollege.edu/XR Lab, and then /XR lab blog /.
That'll also be a link in the description of the video to make it easy.
And so we have a variety of projects here. Maria, and maybe if you could just give us a quick overview of what some of these projects were about, and then we can take a specific look at two or three of these.
Yeah, we actually have a couple pulled up that we'll go through. But if you again, if you could
Yeah.
just give an overview of a couple of these, that'd be nice.
Yeah, so there you can find different kind of things. One of them are tutorials that are blog posts that are more focused in teaching you how to build something. For example, how to train your own OpenAI model with no code. You will find the instructions there and how we did it. And other ones are projects that we, like the XR Lab, developed for other faculties. For example, I don't know, like a virtual tour of a specific building, or the Halloween Dali workshop. That was a workshop with where a lot of teachers were able to create images with Dali, and now you can find a VR exhibition. And other ones are more just research. So, for example, there is a new tool coming up, and we wanted to learn how to do it. So I built something quick, and then you can find the result there. And there is everything like VR, AR, AI, some videos. Yeah, you can find a lot of different things there.
So I would say one of the main areas that you were focused on, you had other areas as well, but was documentation of current projects that we were working on and uh, getting a video version of those so that we could document these updates and new uh, projects they were working on. And
Yeah.
that was really valuable. And then there was some where you were doing projects from the ground up. Maybe we could cover, which one would you like to cover first, Maria? We had talked about some that you wanted to talk about.
Well, we can show the cross media project I was talking about earlier.
Yeah. So you
Yeah,
were talking about the Captain Dick Nelms cross media project, right?
exactly.
So we have a small video here that we can show, and
Yeah.
I'll pull it
Well,
up.
you can
But
go
while
ahead.
this is playing, instead of the audience hearing any of the audio, why don't you kind of explain what we're seeing here as it goes? All right.
Sounds good. Yeah, so as I was saying, the XR Lab first had was working on a short movie because Dignams went to the XR Lab and tried a headset, and this was such a cool situation because he was trying experience of the a VR experience of uh, Bruce. Can you remind me exactly which event it is
It's the
of the war?
B-17 Flying Fortress.
Yeah, exactly. So he was part of it, and then he was experienced that on VR. So this was this short going on, and then I developed the AR experience that you will see at the end.
This one.
Yeah, where you can get information about the airplane and things like that. And also, Bruce helped to create the VR exhibited using Mozilla Hubs.
So the story of Dick Nelms was just to sort of clarify that a little bit. He was a 22-year-old pilot of a B-17 Flying Fortress during the Second World War, and he had an experience at the XR lab where there was a recreation of a bombing run over Berlin in a British plane, but it very closely aligned or matched his experiences in the Second World War. And so he had a chance to experience a virtual version of Mission Over Berlin and was able to then talk about how the real situation was like.
Yeah, where it was maybe the same and where it was different, I'm sure.
It wasn't as scary in the VR version for sure.
Mhm.
And then
Yeah.
Maria went and documented, as you saw in that video, and so that was an interesting experience for everyone.
Yeah, it looks like there's a link here to the virtual world exhibit created in Mozilla Hubs. If is that a working link that people could check out if they want to know more?
I'm thinking maybe we should wait on that because it'll take a while to sort of load up. But there is virtual worlds that we created. So we created a documentary film, as you can see. Ron Austin, who's a co-manager of the XR Lab, is also a documentary filmmaker. So he shot a film of Dick Nelms. We have an online site, and then we have the virtual worlds version, and then Maria's video promoting it. So that
Yeah.
was the whole package there.
All right. Well, related to that, I think the next one that we wanted to show was an AI project that you worked on. So, as I'm
Yeah.
pulling up the video here, Maria, why don't you tell us a little bit about what this is?
Yeah, so exactly. This is something I did last month, I think, and I was using all the information that is on the documentary that we did to train an AI model to talk as Dick Nelms. And then in Unity, I was able to connect an avatar that can talk with you using natural language. So for this, basically the steps is to have a speech to text tool. So when you speak to your computer, you can have that as text, then send that to the AI. The AI answers you with text, and then the 3D model that you see there will talk to you with using like his voice, and then you can have a real-time conversation with Dignams. And lately I've been working a little bit more in this project, also trying to associate the media you see in the background with the things that he's saying. So, for example,
Oh.
if he talks about the B-17, you will have the image, but this is all AI. So,
So like here in this screenshot where it's got the planes in the background, right? It would
exactly.
show
But if
that
he
while he was
talks,
talking about it.
yeah, if he talks about his family, then it will be cool to see his family, and that is working right now, but it's not ready to release yet.
Oh.
Uh,
Maria, just to clarify, you actually use the content from the interviews with Captain Nelms as your knowledge base, right, for his character, answers to the questions, vocabulary, all of that came from his interviews, correct?
exactly, from transcripts of the video.
Yeah, this is I think a really cool use of AI in I guess you could say this is a form of education, right? Where you're learning about a historical moment and you're talking to an AI that's recreated off of the experiences, memories, in that documentary, right? That
Yeah.
we put together in the XR lab. So I think that's really, really cool. And I'm very excited to show that off here.
Mhm.
And I'll also have a link to this video. Is there on this video, is there a link to where they could maybe try out whatever version of this? Is there a public version of this available, or is this just
Well,
a demo?
so the problem is because we are using our own APIs, if we release it to the public, every time that you are speaking, it has a
Mm.
cost because it's using OpenAI API.
Ah, okay.
So yeah, right now it's just like a demo, but we're working on it. And
Well, it's very
maybe in
cool.
the future we can release it so people can put their own API key and then you can test it yourself.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I'll be excited for when we eventually can see that released to the
Well, Bruce has it already. So if
Yeah,
you
well,
go,
I can
like we
go
wanted
see
to
it,
limit it. Yeah,
but
exactly.
I want everyone to be able to see it, right? I think it's really
True.
cool. Okay, so we got one more link here that I think we wanted to talk about as an example of what you've worked on. And
Yeah,
this
so this
was,
is
tell us about
another type of blog that you can find. This is more a tutorial and it's talking about the difference between Nerve, that is an AI technology to create 3D models from videos, and photogrammetry. And yeah, basically we're having two apps next to each other and seeing the pros, the contrasts, and explaining how you can create your own 3D models only using your phone. And then there is a cool thing that you can do with Luma AI, that is to create a video from the 3D model. So
it. Yeah, and
with
we do have the video
Polycam,
here pulled up.
yeah, exactly. With Polycam is more limited. You can only create the 3D models, but here you can create your own videos with impossible movement like this. Like if we had a drone, this would be super hard to do. So yeah, that's a cool experiment as
Yeah.
well.
I think that all of these really kind of show just how diverse your workload has been. Everything from AI to kind of AR, mobile, 3D rendering, and kind of even bringing it back to this very first one where you were helping with the virtual world exhibit and the video for the first Captain Dick Nelms cross media project. So I think it's really cool. If people want to see more of the projects that you've worked on, I would encourage anyone watching or listening to go check out the XR Lab blog, where many of these posts are representative of work that you've done, right?
Yes.
And Maria, I'd like to thank you from the XR Lab for being here and being such a creative and wonderful person to work with, and really blazing new territory in multiple ways that I think are really exciting. So I'm glad you're available for an interview today, so we can recap and document all the great work that you've done here. So
Yeah.
that's good, Maria. Thank you.
No, thanks for the invitation, really.
Yeah, I think that we've covered everything that we wanted to talk about here today. I think this has been a wonderful addition to our podcasts. Why don't we wrap it up and say goodbye? We'll go around, give our names one more time, and say goodbye to the camera. We'll wrap up, and that's it. That's the podcast. So, once more, my name is John Thaler. I was one of the co-hosts for today's podcast. I was very happy to be involved and hear more about Maria's story.
And I'm Bruce Wolcott. I'm a co-manager and faculty lead here at the XR Lab at Bellevue College. Those of you who are interested in finding out more about XR, its related technologies, its association with AI, pay us a visit and take a look at our website to find out more information. bellevuecollege.edu/XR Lab.
And this is Maria, XR developer. Thank you so much for the invitation.
All right. Well, thank you to everyone who helped out and participated here today, and thank you to every single person who listened to the end. With that, goodbye.
Bye.